So let's start with the webinar. I'm Stefan, I'm a MAXQDA trainer, and I was also involved in the development of MAXQDA Tailwind. And it's a great pleasure today to have the MAXQDA Tailwind introduction webinar here today. New AI tools for your qualitative data analysis, because MAXQDA Tailwind has just left its beta status, is now a fully app in the web, and I will explain to you how it works and what MAXQDA Tailwind offers to you. So MAXQDA Tailwind is a web application that utilizes the well-known large language models like as they work, like ChatGPT and others like Claude and Gemini. It uses specific of them, but not all of them. But the idea is that it is a web application for qualitative data analysis that utilizes this AI in a very comprehensive way that allows you to summarize your data, that allows you to identify and to summarize the topics that can be found in your documents, and that allows you to compare your cases regarding these topics. So by creating these topic-oriented comparison tables, we call them summary grids in MAXQDA Tailwind. And also, MAXQDA Tailwind offers you to conduct a dialogical analysis in what we would call a data chat. But the chatting metaphor here is sometimes a little bit short because it's more analysis than simply chatting in an informal conversation. So MAXQDA Tailwind is a web application that is working without coding. It, like many traditional QDA softwares, like also MAXQDA mainly or often does, and offers these new ways utilizing these AI tools. And what I will do today is that I give you a live demonstration on how it works and how Tailwind can be used. And I will do this by creating a new project and going step by step on introducing the analysis features of MAXQDA Tailwind. And to do so, I have prepared some sample data. So we will work with the so-called inaugural addresses. These are the welcome speeches that US presidents give when they start, after they have been elected, when they start their terms. So we're working with 7 of those inaugural addresses, starting in 2001, George W. Bush, and ending in 2025 with Donald Trump. You can see that these are speeches that are addressing the US citizens, but also the complete world, I think, in the idea of what they try to accomplish and what their main goals are, and so on. And to do so, let's go to MAXQDA Tailwind. So I will go to my browser here, and here we go. Whenever you go to tailwindmaxqda.com, you will be redirected to this login page. And to use MAXQDA Tailwind, you need an account. It's called an MAXQDA account, so you would need to sign up here. I have already done this and confirmed my sign up mail, so I can already create this or use my credentials to log into Tailwind here. So let's go here back and close the presentation so it will look more like it. Okay, so whenever I have entered a MAXQDA Tailwind, then you can see that I am redirected to my project page. You can always see where you are because it is written here in top letter and big letters at the top. And here you can see that I have already created some projects, for example, social media data on work-life balance, some interview studies on work-life balance, a literature review on work-life balance of students to illustrate what you can do with MAXQDA Tailwind. And I've already prepared a presidential welcome speeches project here, but I will create a new one. So I will call it presidential welcome speeches, and I will enter a description for the project. So the project name simply says, what is this about? It helps me to organize my projects, but the description is also important because the description steers some of the AI functions to work better and to better understand the context. So for example, here I may write that these are inaugural addresses of US presidents from 2001 to 2025. This would be the minimum of information I would give here. Just explaining the data is a good idea. So it's the type of the data and the context of the data. You may also include the main research interest or the main analysis interest. And here I may also include some more information. So for examples, here I would write inaugural addresses of US presidents from 2001 to 2025, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and Joe Biden. So this is how it works. And here I have the option to select a language which is used for all AI generated content here in my project. So whenever there is something summarized in my project, or if topics are identified, they will be written in this language here that I select here at the beginning of my project. So for example, here I can select English, German, Spanish, or Turkish. And please note that this language that I select here can differ from the language of the data that I'm analyzing. So here, for example, for these English data that I'm analyzing, I could select Spanish to output or to request outputs in Spanish language. I will now create the project, and while it is being created, please note that for this Zoom webinar, there is a Q&A section that you can open in your steering process, in your Zoom interface. There is a Q&A section where you can pose questions that I will answer at the end of my presentation, so after about 45 minutes. And if I see some of the questions and already can answer them while I'm presenting, I'm happy to already include them, but please enter them there, then nothing will be forgotten. So now I have created this project. It has no files in it, it has no topics in it, and no other analytical data. And you can see it has been created here. I can adjust the name and also the description here. But to enter it, I simply click on it. And this is what I'm going to do here, because I want to show you how you can upload data into a MAXQDA Tailwind project. You can see that I can click here on this blue import icon, then I can drag and drop files, or I can browse files here. I have already prepared them, so I can select them using my Shift key on my keyboard, selecting 7 documents at once, and now they have been uploaded to MAXQDA Tailwind, and now they are already prepared for analysis. So actually, summaries are created for each of the documents. You can see that they are appearing here one by one. So they have been finished now. It takes about 10 seconds for each. So they are prepared here and they have been imported. The document import has been completed. And please note that I have used docx files. So Word documents, but it could be also RTF documents. You could import plain text, and you can even import PDF files here, as long as none of these files is larger than 20 megabyte and has not more characters than 250,000 characters, which is about 70 to 100 pages for each document, depending on the formatting, of course. So, for example, here now the file or the speech of Bush has been imported, and I can click on it to open it. You can see that it is displayed here to the right. And you can see that I can scroll here through the document. This is the inaugural speech of George W. Bush from 2001. And at the top, you can see the AI summary that has been created automatically during import. And you can see that the first sentence and the next sentence, and there are several references included here that are directed us to paragraphs, to specific parts in the document where this information stems from or originates from that has been summarized here. So for example, here in the first sentence, President Bush 2001 inaugural address emphasizes the inextricable link between American liberty and global freedom. And whenever I click on this interactive AI summary, you can see that MAXQDA Tailwind will highlight the relevant part, and I can check if the summary captures what is said or is written here. And I can, from my experience working with it, I can always say that it is that these are very, very good summaries and that they really capture what has been said in this complete document here. So, of course, you will get a little bit longer summaries for longer documents and maybe some shorter for shorter documents, but all of them are here or do contain here those references that are interactive. Please note that these first analysis of the summary here, the summary can already be copied to the clipboard, and you can copy it into your report and paste it there and continue working with it. So please note that I can also collapse the AI summary here. So now I have more space for reading my document, especially when you're on a smaller display. And please note that you cannot only click on the document here, but also on the summary button here, which will directly open the summary again and collapsing it automatically. So this is the first import, and now the data is in our project and we can continue with our analysis. So please note that whenever I enter a project, you will see that it is displayed here. The name is displayed here, and we can go here into the next section. We can go to the topics section. So here we can create and manage up to 20 topics, as this information here is saying. And we can now identify topics by clicking on Find Topics. So now the large language model in use here is analyzing the data, the documents that I have imported, and checks if there are topics that are only in some of the documents and some of the topics are in all of the documents, and now presents a list of topic names and descriptions here. So you can see here, for example, I have the domestic policy priorities and an explanation what this means. I have the foreign policy approaches, the national unity and division, American ideals and values, and I can select any of those. I think it's 8 topics that have been created here, can select them. And for example, here you can see that not all of them are focusing on some direct aspects that are directly visible and written there, but it also suggests to look at the rhetorical style and tone. So we could also include something like this in our analysis by selecting this topic. So what I will do is now I will click on Add Topics, and now these 2 topics are added to our project. And you can see that here we have 2 tiles, one for American ideals and values and the other for rhetorical style and tone. And here is the description. And now MAXQDA Tailwind checks each of the 7 imported data, so each of the 7 speeches, how American ideals and values and how rhetorical style and tone is addressed in these documents, in these data, and then creates a topic summary that synthesizes this information into a single topic summary. So for example, this is the summary for American ideals and values. For example, here we can read that the 7 inaugural addresses summary reveal a complex and evolving understanding of American ideals and values, while all documents acknowledge core tenets like freedom, equality, justice, and opportunity. Their emphasis and interpretation varies significantly across administrations. And now here the summary takes into account the Bush era, then comparing it with Obama's, Biden, Trump. So we have all the information here that we need to follow the AI results and to check them and to see what this contributes to our analysis. Again, here, from my experience, these topic summaries are very valuable and they really help us to understand what is going on in topics in the 7 documents. Please note that you can copy this to clipboard. So I can export it here, what I have created here, the summary anytime, or I can export the complete list here to Excel anytime. So all the tiles that are displayed here can be exported. So if you look at the description here, they are following a specific pattern. So the first sentence usually introduces the topic and explains it as a whole. The second sentence then makes it more detailed. And the third sentence gives ideas on how you can include or what relevant aspects are important for this topic. So you can see already here that I can change it. So for example, I can drop the part there because I don't like the examples that the AI suggested here. And you can also change the title. So maybe I wouldn't go with American ideals and values, but only with American values, for example. So I could simply drop the ideals here and apply my changes, and now it is saved. And now what you can see is that the topic summary is still the same, but when you look at this tiny icon here, you can see that this refresh icon here has turned from black to blue, indicating that the topic summary does not reflect anymore the current status of my project. Either I have changed the topic name and the topic or the topic description, or I have added or deleted new documents or existing documents. So if you compare it to this one, this is black. So this is state of the art, or not state of the art. It is an up-to-date topic summary reflecting this topic name and this topic description and the current data in the project, while this is considering the title and the description and all the project data outdated. So I could click on it to update it with this new or updated topic name and topic description. Before I forget it, whenever you click on Find Topics, please note that you may get different results a little bit here. So because there is some kind of AI variance built into MAXQDA Tailwind, which allows us to produce here reliable outputs and reproducible outputs in terms of the contents are usually, especially for the summaries, are very similar to the previous ones. But especially for Find Topics, we may end up with different suggestions every time we call it, but they are also very similar. But for example, you would not always get the rhetorical style and tone here. And of course, you can add topics manually here. So for example, I could add a topic here, I could add a name here, and I will call it environment. And I would say this is not the best way to add a topic because it is very unconcrete, not detailed. So it would be better to call it environmental policies or environmental issues or so, but I keep it as a whole to explain it to you. Then I should add a description, but I don't need to, because the more detailed a description is here, the better the steering of the AI will be. I will simply create it like this. And while it is created now, MAXQDA Tailwind checks all the 7 documents for how they address environment, and then includes a short summary here and displays it here in the topic summary part. So here it is. The provided documents offer a varied perspective on environmental issues. A significant portion lacks any mention of the environment. However, several documents highlight the urgency of addressing climate change. So for example, Obama is mentioned here a lot, and also the Biden is named here. To get more detailed information, I can go to the next feature that is presented here in the menu on the left. It is called the summary tables. Because in the summary tables, I can look how the different topics are distributed across the different data. So I can get an information on how within all these documents that I can select here in this drop down, And I can select here all the topics here. And now we can see, because we are getting a data by topics table here, how, for example, in 2001, Bush, the American values have been addressed. And then the rhetorical style and tone, what can be said about it. And for example, here we have the information that on environment, nothing has been found here. So you can see that this table incorporates the complete data that I have selected here and all the topics that are currently in my project. Of course, I can restrict it to any sub table that I want to create here. For example, I could concentrate on only one topic or on only one or two documents. And then I can investigate how for each of the imported document, the topics are relevant. And you can see that there are also here the references. So in paragraph 6 in 2001 Bush, he talks about the American values, and it's interactive. So we can check here that here he emphasizes something about here, for example, the liberty and the peace and the freedom, which is what is mentioned here in the sentence. He emphasizes the survival of liberty and the success of liberty in other countries. Please note that a topic summary actually is a summary of one of these columns. So the topic summary displayed here for American values, for example, is a summary of this summary column or of the summary table column American values here. So whenever I scroll down here, you can see this is a huge table, and this column is summarized into the topic summary. You can also export this as a first result. Here you can export this to table as it is to Excel. So you can continue there. And of course, the references are included there, and you can use it as a documentation for your analysis, for example. Please note that you can change the name of the summary anytime. I won't do this now because we will create only one, so I don't need distinct names for summary tables. So there is also an interesting thing here. It is the search within the summary tables, and I like it a lot because it filters the columns and the rows automatically. So when we, for example, search here for climate, we will see that only Obama in 2009 and 2013 addresses the climate. And here climate change, and here also climate change. None of the other persons here is addressing it in our summaries. If we wanted to have detailed information on climate, of course, we would need to create a topic on climate, and then MAXQDA Tailwind will check it. Or we could go into the next feature, which is the chat feature, and which is now online for a longer time. So whenever you go to chats, please note that the menu is a little bit collapsed to have more space on your entire screen here, especially if you're on a short screen. And now you can enter any questions. So for example, we could ask for climate. So we could ask, what did the presidents say about climate change? And then we can send this, and then MAXQDA Tailwind will check all the 7 documents for to answer this question. Before I start, please note that I can always select here when starting a new chat on with what documents I want to chat here. So here, for example, I could select all of my documents or only some of them. And this is very helpful because I could concentrate, for example, only on the Obama document here, or I can concentrate on the Trump document or on both Trump's documents. For example, I will go here with all the documents. I will start it here. What did the president say about climate change? And MAXQDA Tailwind will check these 7 documents and provide an answer. So please note that we don't need the topics and we don't need the summary tables for working with the chat. So you can start working with the data chat as soon as you have imported data in your project, and then you can start analyzing it. And maybe in one project you will never use the topics feature and the summary tables feature, and in another project you may not use the chat, for example, depending on what your goals are. Compared to the other features, the chat is, of course, much more flexible. So, for example, we can ask any question here. And this is also the challenge here, because to pose good questions here is important to get good results. But compared to ChatGPT, compared to Claude and Gemini and other general chatbots, you are chatting with your data. MAXQDA Tailwind knows that you're chatting with your data. And usually when you're providing even if you're providing a less good question, let's call it, MAXQDA Tailwind will do its best to find the best answer to your questions and will try really hard here to give you interesting information. So for example, here we get the information on how these presidents articulate climate change, right? So it's just saying, no, there is nothing in it, right? They do not mention climate change. So at the end, I'll get a summary here. I could even define on how the chat output should look like. I could ask for a table, or I could ask for anything here. And usually the chat will create it. And if not, it usually will say, I cannot do this. Yeah. So what I did to give you some ideas, I've prepared project here. And in this project, I have already some chat conversations included. So for example, here I have a similar to this one that I've shown you. For example, here I ask, what did the president say about education? And you can see that here again, the output is very similar to the others. And you can see that here we have also, again, the references. And please note that the chat differentiates between two different kinds of references. This is a general reference to the complete document because it does not contain a paragraph number. But as soon as I go here, you will see that the paragraph number is indicated here. It is paragraph 22. So whenever I click here, the paragraph 22 will be highlighted and I can read it here. And whenever I click on this one, it will go to the top of the document and we can work on the document top, right? While when you're asking for quotes, for example, or whenever chatbots are outputting quotes from the internet or somewhere, even sometimes from your own material, they often make mistakes. And in MAXQDA Tailwind, this works very great. So usually when you have something here written in a quote, in quotation marks, this is exactly the wording that the person used, even if it may be full of mistakes. Sometimes, for example, even for an interview where sometimes the persons are not making or not talking in incorrect sentences, let's say incorrect syntax and correct semantic, repeating a lot of words, for example. Usually when you do analyze those data with ChatGPT and other general chatbots, they will output a constructed sentence, which is the meaning of the original one. But here in MAXQDA Tailwind, this is usually what has been exactly written in the document. Please note that these are kind of footnotes, like they work like footnotes, so they are numbered, and from 1 to here in this case 14, the highest number for each response, and you can export it. For now, it is. So let's check here. So whenever you're unsure what questions you can pose in the chat here of MAXQDA Tailwind, you may ask the chat on, please help me in finding good questions here. I am interested in this research or analytical interest, or have this analytical interest. What I did here to demonstrate these, let's call it meta analytics, is that I asked the chatbot of MAXQDA Tailwind what different types of analytical questions, comparing, deep analysis, giving me quotes, looking for contradictions, may I pose considering the given 7 speeches. Focus on the types of questions. And this I did to give you an impression on what you can ask. For example, you can do a comparative analysis. You can ask for compare the presidents, or within presidentials compare Donald Trump's first and the second term, or across themes compare regarding economic policy or foreign relations here. We can perform a rhetorical analysis. We could ask, for example, to output metaphors and how they may work and what they may intend to, or why they may use them. You can look for the discourse and analyze the discourse and how they frame some of it. So it's the large language models here are very capable of outputting interesting information here and giving a really deep analysis of those. And the thing what you have to take care about is, as you have always with large language models, is not ask it for specific frequencies. So never ask how often did a person mention the word climate change, for example. And because counting is not what is on the high rankage of large language model capabilities. But what you can do is list all the sentences, or list all or give me quotes where the presidents talk about climate change, for example. And then it may not be comprehensive list, but then you can have a follow-up questions. Please double check here. Yeah. And please note that even for very large data sets here with 20 or 30 documents, or sometimes with 50 shorter documents, you can run a chat over all those documents, and MAXQDA Tailwind will be able to answer it usually very well here. Okay, so this is the general idea of this chatbot and the chat here that is implemented in MAXQDA Tailwind, and how you can work with it. So please note that, as you can see here in the things, it is always a good idea to have clear and short document names. This is helpful for the document topics, or for the topic summaries, and it is helpful here for referencing the documents. So before you import data into MAXQDA Tailwind, it is always a good idea to think about how you want to name your documents. So when I go back here, this is a good idea because they are starting with the name. So when sorting them alphabetically, which is done usually internally when they are sent to large language models, then we can see that these are here in the sequence of, they're in chronological sequence here, in the sequence of history. So looking at the question and answer section, currently it is only for text, so we cannot listen to audios here yet, and we cannot get mind maps after running a particular chat. So the chat is not capable currently of producing other output than text. But what you can do there is, if you're looking into mind maps, this is kind of a trick that works with most LLMs. You could, this is not the best topic for it, but I just write it here. You could ask for something like create a graph with output, which is a software language, which is some kind of text information, and which then you can paste into any of those tools which are online. It's a graph width viewer where you can convert text into a graphics. I use this a lot with many of the language models because then I can usually steer it better and continue editing it. Okay, so I will answer the other questions later on. Thanks for posing them. So let me go here, check if I need to tell you something here. Now I think this is all here. So let's continue with the information here in my presentation. So what data can you analyze with MAXQDA Tailwind? First of all, you can analyze, for example, interview and conversation data, no matter if it's a single person interview or focus group interview, or if it is a meeting protocol. You can analyze documents and reports. So I use it, for example, for analyzing how different topics are addressed in research papers. You can use it for business reports or any other evaluation reports, for example, or for policy documents. You can use it for posts. I know persons who use it, for example, for Reddit posts. They export it from Reddit and then they import it in Tailwind, comparing different posts and communications and comments there. Here we go. Then we have the survey and feedback data. For example, you could import open-ended responses. I already saw the question if you could import XLS files. Now, this is not possible yet, but I'm pretty sure this is on the feature request list already. And whenever you have a feature request or anymore, you go to MAXQDA. You go to MAXQDA Tailwind, and there you can see there is a feedback button, and then you can send a feature request there. And of course, you could use it for field notes, for ethnographic studies, observation protocols, and memos. And of course, the question is, where's the data stored? What happens when it goes somewhere? So let me shortly introduce this. So whenever you're using MAXQDA Tailwind, or if you're using MAXQDA iAssist or MAXQDA transcription, then there is a request sent to AWS in the cloud server in Frankfurt, and then it is sent here to any of the LLMs or the AI service provider, which is located in the European Union here. And then it is sent back and sent back here. And the important thing is that none of this, the LLM request, none of the AI requests, I can say, is stored somewhere. So here is nothing stored. It is never used for training. It is encrypted, stored here. And of course, the communication channels here are totally encrypted, and it is not possible to be there in the middle or somewhere. It does not work. So that's why it is compliant with data privacy regulations like there is this typo, GDPR, it should say. So I think your key benefits are that you have a trustworthy analysis. It is easy to verify your results using those references. And you have quick results. Although I'm a little bit hesitant of pushing here the time, I think it is a huge benefit for time, because when I remember working on a project for an evaluation project with 10 interviews in 2008, where we made a project where we, 100 hours we used to analyze those data. I think using Tailwind, we could reduce this completely to 5 or 6 hours plus the transcription, which is done in parallel with MAXQDA transcription, right? So I think we have those smart comparisons because we can use those tables to easily spot the differences across cases and also within the cases regarding the different topics. And I invite you to be very, let's say creative regarding the topic definitions. You could ask for language use there. You could ask for interaction in the conversation. You could ask for arguments. So think of the topic term here, not too specific in terms of content and subjects. You can be there more creative. I feel that it is very comprehensive and interactive. So we can combine the thematic analysis with the tables and the topics with flexible AI chat, right? And it is data secure, and this is a huge advantage over ChatGPT and other general Yeah, chatbots, because lately I'm reading a lot of papers where they're saying using ChatGPT, using Claude, using large language models for qualitative data analysis. And I'm always a little bit worried about the what is happening with the data, because you need to know how you ensure that the data is not sent where you don't want it and it is not stored there. So this is all built in here. And as you've seen, I think no training is required. You simply upload your files and start analyzing. Actually, you get the first analysis, the document summaries directly, right? So, who benefits from Tailwind? I think it is typical for evaluators, for consultants, for marketers, designers. I think journalists may use Tailwind for bringing different perspectives together, keeping an overview of all the different information they have gathered. Also for lawyers, looking into different information they have, or different legal texts. Strategists, analytic foresights. Foresight may be a topic which may be addressed here, researchers, analysts. So this is important. And for Tailwind, you don't need a MAXQDA license. So it is completely decoupled from MAXQDA. So whenever it is two different products, you could say. The main product, MAXQDA, is not necessary anymore to access Tailwind. So you go to tailwindmaxqda.com, you click on register, or I'm sorry, I think it says sign up, but maybe there at the top there's also the register button. Then you can start a 7-day trial. You can create one project. You can use it with 5 documents. And after the 7-day trial, you have access to your data for a longer period. And if you then purchase a monthly subscription license, then you can access your data there anytime and continue working with it.